It was a bitterly cold evening in the heart of the city. The kind of evening where the wealthy slipped into chauffeured cars, and restaurants glowed warm behind glass windows, while shadows huddled on the sidewalks hoping for mercy from passersby. Inside a glittering five-star restaurant, a man named Richard Caldwell pushed away his plate. Half the roasted salmon remained untouched, and a glass of wine sparkled in the candlelight. Richard was one of the city's wealthiest men, a millionaire whose name carried weight in boardrooms and on magazine covers. Yet beneath his expensive suit and polished shoes, he carried a heart that had grown colder with each deal he made. As Richard rose to leave, the maître d' hurried over with his coat. But before he could step outside, a faint voice stopped him. A young woman stood there by the door, her frame fragile, her coat far too thin for the winter. Her cheeks were hollow, her eyes tired but piercing with a strange, quiet dignity. She did not ask for money. She did not beg for mercy. All she said, in a voice trembling yet steady, was, "May I have your leftovers, sir?" The restaurant fell silent. Some guests sneered, others whispered. But Richard, annoyed at first, turned, and when he looked into her eyes, something unexpected stirred inside him. There was hunger. Yes, but also resilience. A refusal to bow down even in desperation. It was as though she were clinging to some invisible thread of hope that life had not yet managed to steal. For the first time in years, Richard hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. Her name was Emily. She was 24, though hardship had etched lines of worry across her face. Once, she had been a university student with dreams of becoming a teacher. But tragedy struck. Her mother fell ill, hospital bills piled high, and Emily abandoned her studies to work. When her mother passed, debts crushed her, and she lost her job. With nowhere to turn, she found herself homeless, roaming the streets, doing her best to survive each day with dignity intact. Richard handed her the plate, and she ate as though it were the first real meal she had tasted in weeks. He watched, strangely transfixed. He, who had spent fortunes on banquets, who thought nothing of wasting food, now could not look away from this simple act of survival. Something inside him cracked, the realization of how much he had taken for granted. When she finished, she whispered a soft, "Thank you," and turned to leave. But before she could step into the freezing night, Richard called out, asking her to sit with him. Confused, she obeyed. And so began a conversation that neither of them would ever forget. Over the following weeks, Richard found himself searching for Emily in places he'd never before dared to look. He brought her food, then clothes, and eventually offered her a temporary job at one of his offices. She resisted at first, wary of charity and the strings that often came attached. But her pride gave way to practicality. She needed a way out, and perhaps this was it. The job was simple: organizing documents, answering phones. But Richard noticed something. Emily's mind was sharp, her work precise, and her compassion for others in the office unmatched. Slowly, she gained respect from his staff, who saw in her what Richard had almost forgotten, the strength of those who endure with little. Yet challenges loomed. Rumors spread. Why was the millionaire so interested in a girl from the streets? Colleagues whispered. Tabloids speculated. Emily was humiliated, her dignity once again under attack. One night, overwhelmed, she confronted Richard. "I don't want to be your project. I don't need your pity." Her words cut deep, because they were true. Richard had started out wanting to ease his guilt, to silence the discomfort she had awakened in him. But by now, it was more. He realized he admired her spirit more than the polished executives who surrounded him daily. And so, Richard made a decision. He wouldn't save Emily. He would walk with her as she saved herself. Emily enrolled back in classes with Richard's financial support, though she made him promise it was a loan, not a gift. He agreed. Night after night, she studied. Day after day, she worked. The journey was grueling, and more than once she nearly gave up. But whenever she faltered, she remembered the night she had asked a stranger for leftovers, and how he had chosen to see her not as a beggar, but as a human being worthy of more. Years passed, and Emily became a teacher, shaping young lives with wisdom that could only be born of struggle. She never forgot the cold sidewalks, the hunger, the humiliation. And she never forgot the miracle that began with 4 simple words. "May I have your leftovers, sir?" As for Richard, the millionaire who thought he had everything, He discovered he had been starving in his own way, starving for meaning, for connection, for humanity. In helping Emily, he had rediscovered himself. His wealth no longer defined him, his compassion did. Together their lives intertwined not through charity, but through mutual respect and growth. The inspiring message of this story is simple yet powerful sometimes. The greatest miracles happen not when we give from abundance, but when we pause long enough to see the humanity in one another. A plate of leftovers became the spark for a second chance, not just for Emily, but for Richard as well. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you feel when Emily asked for his leftovers? What would you have done in Richard's place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories that inspire kindness, hope, and the power of second chances, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Be kind always, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness really can change a life.